Hey legends, welcome along to the show. Now we're going to get into another little recommendation for you to check out. You need to watch this TV show. This one is from the late 90s and came out in 1997. Unfortunately, it only ran for one season due to poor viewership, but it was up against it has to be said. The show, it is Darkskies. If you've never heard tell of this show, I can recall checking it out. The pilot episode, I got to see that when it first came out, or no, it wasn't the pilot episode, it was the opening episode for it, and I remember seeing that. It was absolutely fantastic back in the day. But think about X-Files and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and kind of mesh the two of those together with, the whole alien conspiracy thing, and you kind of get Darkskies. It is, when I say it was up against it, like X-Files back in the day was the show, and this one here, when it came out, was kind of like almost a cheaper version of it. So it was up against it for that there. And whenever you're heading into 97, heading towards the year 2000, like the rise of reality TV was starting to become more and more of a big thing back then. And shows like this here were all kind of suffering at that stage. The whole science fiction thing was suffering in a major way. I can only speak from where I live and grew up at, but I do recall these sort of shows just not being as popular. And this, for one reason or another, I've been reading a few things online about it, and people have said this, that and the other, and some people are saying that it was probably a little bit too close to fact and the show got cancelled, but they're putting it down to bad viewership. But the time of night that it was put out, it was on fairly late back then here in the UK, and all those sorts of shows were, a lot of the people that were in charge, you would almost have thought that the people in charge of scheduling back in the day, whenever you seen something like Darkskies coming, they would put it on at a ridiculous hour, just because it was like, oh, this might not be appropriate for everybody. But it's actually fantastic. I'm gutted that it only went for one season. It's definitely worth a watch. It's very much like X-Files, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Essentially, in this show, it is set in like the 60s, and you've got this organisation, Majestic 12, that are aware of an alien invasion, and they're the ones that are kind of trying to fight the threat, but also cover it up at the same time. But then you've got this guy, John Loengard, the hero of the show, that wants to spill the story. It's kind of like the Fox Mulder. He's trying to prove the truth. He's trying to get it out there, and he's got proof, and he's gave it to the authorities. The president gets it. President Kennedy gets it in the pilot episode, and at the end of the pilot episode, of course, his assassination happens. So the show itself takes events from real life and puts their own kind of a spin on it, which was probably not the most popular thing to do either whenever you're launching a new show, but it does tie into actual real history in a big bad way, which really works in its favour. And each episode there seems to be something that you'll recognise from history, and then there'll be like an alien kind of side to it. I absolutely loved it. But fantastic. It stars Eric Close, Megan Ward, JT Walsh is in here as the guy that runs Majestic 12, and he's absolutely fantastic in it. Essentially, with to kind of spoil it slightly for you, like you do in the opening episode, you get a new variation of the Roswell incident, where if you believe it or if you don't believe it, there was a UFO was found there, the whole Area 51 thing. They go through all that in this episode, but instead of it being a crashed ship that they found, it was actually first contact with an alien species. In this case, the classic grey alien is in there, but it wasn't the first contact as in, you know, humans meeting aliens. It was aliens turning up and essentially demanding the unconditional surrender of the human race. And the crashed spaceship is actually a spaceship that was shot down by the humans in Roswell back then. So you've got Majestic 12 from then forward trying to cover everything up and fight and whatnot. But it's interesting, further through the series you get, it's the actual alien threat is not the Greys, but another species of alien that's actually invaded them. So it's one of these situations where the humans are trying to fight against this threat that's, you know, they've got technology that can come from so far out in the galaxy. They're far more technically advanced than us. And then they start to realise that, oh, the actual threat is a threat that's actually invaded and colonised this race. So, you know, if they're this technology is that far advanced, what's the real threat not going to be like? But it's, again, very much X-Files, very much Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's a good show. It just, it's well worth, like, actually looking it up, reading a little bit into it as well, with some of the theories about why it was cancelled at the end of the day. There's some very interesting theories out there, because if you do follow this sort of stuff, you know, right now we're getting a lot of disclosure as far as UAPs go, and some of the stuff that's in this show that came out in 97, there's a lot of things that you'll be hearing here and there that kind of tie in slightly to this here. So again, as I said earlier, some people reckon it was cancelled because it was getting too close to the truth. So it's great. I absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, because it was a cancelled show, you get to the end of that season, you get to the end of the series, you get to the end of the box set, and you get a kind of a cliffhanger episode. But unfortunately, the one thing that does play against it is the fact that it's John Longard, the character, the main guy in the show, goes up against all these threats. He's got the aliens on one side, he's got the government on the other side, he's got Majestic 12, this secret organisation. You know, he's in the centre and he's on the run, him and his girlfriend, from all these different people. But each of the episodes, again, is a variation on history, and you've got a narrator opening the episodes essentially and kind of setting the stage, and it's like somebody reading from their journals, and this narrator is a future version of John Longard. So there and then, probably the only weak point for me in the whole series was the fact that they made a decision to go this way, because if you've got the main character, a future version of the main character, narrating like this is a memory from my journals, it doesn't matter what sort of threat you're going to throw at him throughout the entire series, because you know he's going to get through it and get to the end. Whatever they do, he's always going to survive. So that's the downside to it. But coming up towards that final episode, there is a few things in here that I wasn't expecting to happen, and yeah, I absolutely loved it. It's definitely well worth checking out if you're into these sorts of shows. Not going to change your life entirely, but it is a good show. But in the process of actually looking for this here, Darkskies, there is a movie called Darkskies as well, which I believe is a kind of a horror or something. I was looking for the show and I couldn't find it because this, like, Google's thrown up all these other different things. Yeah, apparently there's a a horror science fiction movie by the same name, Darkskies, which I'll probably check out at some point for the horror podcast. So if you haven't checked the horror podcast out, Hellmouth Hotline, on your podcast provider of choice, 2 episodes a week, going up onto that there. So if I'm not incredibly active here, I'm going to be incredibly active on the podcast, because it's a lot easier than doing this here, because you don't have to actually get dressed and clean your teeth and stuff. You can just throw on a microphone and off you go. Right, guys, that's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I will talk to you on the next one.